Hello folks, I am coming to you all from 227 feet below sea level. I'm not making that up. We are technically below the surface of the ocean, well under it. It is a sweltering 95 degrees. Don't worry though, it's a dry heat. Everything's fine, I don't feel sticky at all. But we arrive here in a very otherwise scenic looking place. A lot of trash around, old shoes and cans everywhere, lots of trash. Lots of tiny little birds picking up the residue of the dead wildlife, which I'll explain a lot more about. But it is here in this very special place that we celebrate our debut into our first new state of the Best of the Most West tour. This is our 44th state here on the coverage project. California, the Golden State. Now, California is a very, very interesting place. It's that quintessential West Coast state. Yeah, people know of California. It's one of those big, well-known states. It is the most populous state in the country. So if there's any state that we should cover quite a lot of on this trip through the westernmost reaches of the big continental landmass of the United States, well, it's right here at this state. You may know California for being the home of many things. I mean, let's get past the stereotypes of, the surfer dudes in Southern California and the tech gurus of Northern California. Everybody knows about that. But there's quite a lot more in this gigantic state that we could very well discover here through our journeys. So as always, when we debut into a new state, I like to probe you all. What do you think of? What comes to mind with the state of California? Well, here's what I can say. It is a state that encompasses so many different regions, landscapes, ecosystems, environments. I mean, from up north with the beautiful mountains of the Sierra Nevadas, and then the redwoods, the sequoia trees, those gigantic behemoths of vegetation. But then you get towards the south and it becomes very arid and desert-like. Kind of like what we're seeing right now. The driest of the dry climates. It's there where you can find Death Valley, one of the hottest recorded places on Earth. And I mean, right here it feels very, very hot. We're only in middle to the end of April, but it's hotter than any other time of year where I'm from in the Northeast. So what else is there? Well, California is known for its caricatures, of course. The surfer people, the hippies. Counterculture started here in California. Do you think of maybe the social atmosphere of California, where live and let live is sort of the unofficial motto? Maybe you think of the old California of yesteryear. I mean, it was the gold rush of 1849 which brought the first massive waves of immigration to this golden state. It's called the Golden State because gold was found in huge quantities. Finally, in recent times, you might think of California for its massive tech startup industries. Silicon Valley is huge up in the north of California. Oh, and of course there's that glitz and glamour of Southern California's Los Angeles, Hollywood area. all the movie stars of yesterday and today frequenting that area. It's a big entertainment industry. It's one of the world's biggest entertainment industries. Unofficially, it's considered the capital of the film industry. The world's film influence draws straight to Hollywood. Overall, California is one of America's most diverse, if not the most diverse state. Not just with biomes and landscapes, not just with people coming from different cultural backgrounds, but just the way of life people have. All across this state you can find people who are mere farmers or agricultural workers. Or you could find, people who are very wealthy, either with the tech startups in San Francisco or down in Hollywood, the actors, film industry people, and then you just have the everyday folk, ordinary people just living their lives. California is a very diverse place. It is that quintessential West Coast state. We are not here at the West Coast though, not quite yet. We're very inland. Although there is a large body of water, we are very inland. This is Southern California's Imperial Valley. And in between those mountains and those mountains lies a desert sandwiched in between. Yeah, this desert is part of the larger Sonoran Desert that we saw back in Phoenix, Arizona. But it has its own little separate classification as the Colorado Desert. Well, let's check out our surroundings real quick. We got a beautiful range of mountains in the distance, a great body of water right in front of us. I don't know if this camera can pick it up, but there's plenty of tropical looking trees. Maybe they grow dates or citrus. Lots of farmland here in the Imperial Valley. Well, everything seems to check off for a great day on the beach, right? Well, before you get too excited, just know this water has such a high salinity and is so toxic that it is very unsafe just to go for a little dip in the water. I recommend don't do that. Don't even take a boat out there, because this lake, this sea, the Salton Sea, has a long history, and more recently a history of degradation and decay. Wow, this is as desolate as it gets. So if you want that fun in the sun right next to a body of water like this, well, come to the Salton Sea. It's a large one. It's over 300 square miles of pure ocean blue. Well, I'm not gonna call that blue, but you know what I mean. So for long periods of time in geologic history, the area that we find ourselves in, the Imperial Valley, switched between big body of water known as Lake Cahuilla by geologists, between that and a dry desert basin. And it all depended on whether the Colorado River, miles and miles to the east, decided to divert its course at any given time, bringing water to this valley and flooding it with pure water. Not like today's stuff, but pure river water, I guess. That was Lake Cahuilla. Oh, check this out. Just a bunch of bubbles. Is that what happens when a body of water just gets so salty? That is just some strange stuff. It's like a beached whale. Instead of an animal, it's just a bunch of bubbles. Oh, that is just terrific. A picnic bench. Care for a picnic in some saline waters, everyone? So for thousands of years, this area was inhabited by various Native American groups. When the water of this Lake Cahuilla was there, they probably utilized that for lots of fishing, plenty of protein to be had in these waters. I don't know what they would have done if it was during the time of the desert basin when these waters were just absent. Yeah, that was sort of the pattern. The Colorado River dictated the status of the resources in this land. Hey, there's like a train going through. Looks like supplies are being delivered by freight to whatever the capital of this Imperial Valley might be. I wonder who rules the Imperial Valley. It sounds like such a royal, honorable title given to this land. Anyway, this body of water was a desert basin until 1905 or so, when the Colorado River once again diverted its course, brought some of that water to this valley. What was different though was that the Americans were here around this time. Much like in Phoenix, because it was so dry here, they had to utilize various canals for the growing farming industry. Yes, farming is a big thing here in Southern California. So the irrigation canals that were used by these Southern Californian farmlands dumped all the excess water they had running through them into today's Salton Sea. That's what forms that shape of today's Salton Sea. Kind of resembles a gourd or a butternut squash. Now, this is not your average sandy beach, no. You know how when you're trying to go from the water to maybe the boardwalk and you're trudging through the massive mounds of sand? That's kind of what it's like here, but instead of fine particles, you're getting these, I don't know, salty crystalline shards in a way. But that's what it's like, that's what the shore is. Oh, that looks kind of nasty. Don't you want that on your beachfront property? The Salton Sea is the main body of water in its endorheic basin. Endorheic? Yeah, that's a big word. All that just means is that, contrary to most water systems in the world, which through some course, however long it may be, ends up in the ocean, this is not what happens with the Salton Sea. There is no entry point to the ocean, no mouth to a larger body of water. Everything sort of just gets evaporated here. And evaporated it does get because it's very, very, very dry. The largest example of one of these endorheic basins is found at the watershed of the Caspian Sea over in Central Asia. That's the largest example, but here, this is another prime example. No mouth, no entry point to the ocean. It just sits here and is brought up into the sky. Really?
And there used to be a place here that was building, you could buy bait, because the water used to come up in here and they would rent boats. And like I say, the water was all the way up to here.
That's incredible. Oh goodness, there's a lot of debris just laying dormant around here. Nobody here to pick it up. I wonder if it's from the time around mid-century, 20th century, that the Americans living here in the Imperial Valley of California thought, well, it's a good place right by a beautiful seafront to develop some property. Because as you know, us Americans, it's our God-given right to turn every empty strip of land into a museum, theme park, or gift shop. So yeah, around the 1950s, 1960s, this all used to be a resort area. Bombay Beach, as they called it. And nowadays you'll see various kind of artsy projects just laying out here. You don't really see an artist's signature or anything, you just see some weird creative ventures, along with a few people brave enough to withstand the conditions year-round, living here, either at Bombay Beach or nearby Slab City. You know, we're right by the old abandoned area. We should check that out. I kind of just want to play piano here all day, but we have a city to explore. Bombay Beach. Yeah, this is Bombay Beach. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you guys. Not so much of a tourist destination anymore. Back in the 50s and 60s, it was kind of a popular thing here in California. A lot of Angelenos would come vacation here, but not so much anymore. And that's because it was generally abandoned. And what can you expect? I mean, this was supposed to dry out, this lake, around the 60s, 70s, 80s, but it was sort of kept alive from the water that was being pumped from these irrigation canals. Sadly, the water was not fresh anymore. There was rising salinity levels. The lake became saltier and saltier. That, along with the toxic farm runoff from a lot of these surrounding farmlands, created an inhospitable ecosystem for the original wildlife that would exist. Only the strongest and most salt-resistant species could survive, while everything else, it died out. Yeah, the Salton Sea became ever more gross, and the tourism industry was not doing so well at that point. Yeah, I guess tourists don't really like the idea of seeing the ideal postcard beach destination here in inland California, and then coming here and realizing there's dead fish at the shores everywhere, and the water's way too dirty and toxic to safely swim in. Yeah, so eventually the idea of a beautiful resort community, yeah, that went into the gutter real quick. Yeah, and now what remains of this supposed tourist resort community is just a glorified trailer park with a few little local shops here and there scattered. Not my first vacation choice, but here we are in the coverage project, going to the resort communities nobody else wants to. Sorry, Three Dog Night, I know you all wanted to give joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea, but I don't think there are any here. At the Salton Sea, they're all dead. Bombay Beach was not the only town abandoned right on the coast of the Salton Sea. Salton City was, around the same time as Bombay Beach on the other side, a huge development project, a planned city with a suburban character. It was supposed to accommodate tens of thousands of people and even had its own power grid system and plenty of amenities to develop a thriving community right on the shore of the Salton Sea. But that was not the case. We can even now see the empty remains of the planned, curved, suburban streets. And we can even see houses in the distance. There are lots of trailers, but even the houses, they may not all be inhabited by people. They may be just as abandoned as everywhere else that just looks so void of life. The great community to be, Salton City, it only has a little less than 6,000 people, whereas it could have supported tens of thousands. And that number, under 6,000, has only happened just recently. There was a time when Salton City couldn't even hold 1,000 people. It is a sad case, but hey, there's an upside to that. People of Los Angeles, San Francisco, you guys are always complaining about the exorbitantly spiking house prices. Well, now you have a place that is totally welcoming and very, very cheap. Salton City. I don't know, Californians, these seem like some opportune lands. Care to put your money where your mouth is? Because this is Salton City, right next to the Salton Sea. Anyway, let's close it out. I'm going to conclude by saying this. The Salton Sea gets saltier and saltier every year, and there could be a day when the Salton Sea completely vanishes like it's done for millennia. The Salton Sea is one of America's greatest environmental embarrassments. The state of California is still trying to fix the whole environmental problems here and reverse the impact it's done to the greater Southern California ecosystem. This place, for as scrappy as it is, it has a polarized reputation. Some people are in the camp of, oh no, don't go there, it's dangerous and sketchy and everything. And then there's other people saying, oh no, it's a cool ghost town. And I'm one of those people. Not only do I think it's a prime example of a ghost town here in America, but it's one of the few ghost towns of a contemporary time. We've all heard of the boom towns of the Old West that have gone downhill for a while now, but you can kind of see remnants of a more familiar environment. You know, the suburban feel that you might have, or that would have been here had this place been a success. And of course, abandoned resorts are always fun to visit because, you know, resorts are a place that people should visit. It's a draw, it's an attraction for people, and yet when it fails, you have to wonder what went wrong. So it's always cool to visit these abandoned resorts. But that is the Salton Sea ahead of us. What a way to debut our 44th state, California. Only 6 states left. So with that, I'll just end it off, close out the video. We've had a long day. So here, walking along, well, I don't know which Sea King Seaway Drive we're on or whatever, but looking at the beautiful, decaying but beautiful Salton Sea. More travels to come. I will see you at the next location.